podcast series is Nova Legends, and we celebrate kind of homegrown Northern Virginia talent. But as you may have noticed, in the last week or so, you're the second Richmond legend that I've been talking to. We might have to broaden our series to be Virginia legends. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Well, it's so funny. When I saw Northern Virginia, and I was like, Richmond doesn't really qualify for Northern Virginia. And you had a lot of great Northern Virginia guys, Johnny Dawkins, Tommy Amker. Don't let me forget Tommy.
Yeah.
So I forget, there was somebody else from Northern Virginia you had.
Oh yeah, we had Grant Hill.
Yeah, Grant Hill.
Yeah, Hubert Davis.
Kathy Grimes. Let's not forget Kathy.
Yeah, I did Kathy as well. It was great catching up with her. I have not seen Kathy since law school, and we both were at UVA law school together. So anyway, well, thanks for doing this. I'd like to, with you, Rick, I'd like to start, back in Richmond, because you were the brother of a very successful UVA player as well, Bobby Stokes, a doctor in the Charlottesville area now. And he was kind of a legend as well, and you guys were very similar. But anyway, so where did you guys start playing? Where did you start playing your basketball? And what was the kind of effect Bobby had on your development?
Well, we grew up. My dad was a high school principal, Julian, and my mother was a school teacher. And we grew up in King William, Virginia. And Bobby was 5 years older. Oh, he is 5 years older. And King William is probably 60 miles east of Richmond. And we just grew up in a rural area. We had a basket in our backyard, and we played one-on-one every day of my life. And he beat me every day of my life. He never let me win. So I think that's my lesson in life. If a guy not supposed to beat you, don't let him beat you. So we played one-on-one every day. That was our job. Yeah,
King William had some trips to the state tournament in the 70s. Did you know any of those kids on those teams from King William?
You know, my brother was a really prolific scorer in high school, and I think some of his records still stand. I mean, he probably averaged 35, 38 points per game. Coming back, he was a senior in high school, and they had another guard named William Butler, who averaged probably around 28 points a game. So I wouldn't want to be a post guy on that team, but they just pressed and ran. And he was, ironically though, he was a great scorer in high school, and he was more of a setup guard at Virginia. So and he went on to have a really good career at UVA.
So you guys played in the backyard. Did you guys go into Richmond to play some pickup, or down to Hampton to play some pickup, or where did you get the?
This is the Julian. This is pre AAU or whatever. So this is just a group of guys getting in the backyard and playing. And when Bobby graduated in 1975, my dad got a new job working with the State Department of Education, and we moved to Richmond. And went to Thompson Middle School in 8th grade, and I never had to fulfill Bobby's big tennis shoes at King William High School. I don't think I could have done that. And then I went to Huguenot in Richmond and played 9th grade for Bo Jones, who just passed, legendary coach Bo Jones, and played for George Lancaster my sophomore, junior year. And the schools consolidated in the city of Richmond. Superintendent thought the low enrollment, he would have these mega schools, Jefferson Huguenot with. And Bob Booker ended up getting the job at Jefferson Huguenot with, which was Huguenot's arch rival. And George Lancaster got the job at Highland Springs. So I was a rising senior, and had a decision whether to go play for my second father, George Lancaster, or go play for this new mega school. And my family, my dad and mom, made the decision to go out to Highland Springs with two of my best friends, Reggie Tennyson and Frank Tennyson. And the three of us went out to Highland Springs.
So was your game a little raw coming from King William? And when you got to Richmond, did you play against big city boys and you changed, or because of Bobby, you were pretty much right? You were ready to go, even though you were from the country.
You know what? I think playing against Bobby, basketball is a skill. I was not the prolific scorer that Bobby was, but I also thought defensively with my quickness. I said I probably was a little quicker, a little more athletic than Bobby. Moving to Richmond, basketball is basketball, whether you're playing in the country or playing in the city. But it was a little transition, but George Lancaster, you always played hard. And that's one of the reasons that I was able to play. And, city of Richmond, I love Richmond and some really good talent as well.
One of the interesting things when the schools consolidated in the mid to late 70s, those were some of the strongest teams in the history of the state. Jefferson Huguenot in the early 80s was good. You had some great Marshall Walker teams in the early 80s as well. And Petersburg had been good in the 70s, as you know, and also I think Hopewell won a state championship early in 1970s. But afterwards, the Eastern region and Norfolk and Hampton completely dominated high school basketball. There were some times when like Roanoke and Danville, those schools had teams. But it's interesting, when the schools first consolidated, they had some great teams. Richmond really fell off. And maybe it's because there were so many private schools in Richmond, like Benedictine and St. Christopher's, and maybe some of the talent bled off over the years.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Ironically, moving to Highland Springs, we were in the same district as Jefferson Huguenot with. So it was really funny having to play against a bunch of your teammates. And we really give Coach Lancaster a lot of credit, because Highland Springs to this day is a football powerhouse. I mean, they're always in the state championship for football. So what you had at that time, and this was the late 70s, I graduated in 80, was a bunch of football players playing basketball. And Coach Lancaster was like, no, we're not going to have that.
Yeah.
Not that they can't play, but we're going to have basketball players who want to play basketball all year long. And so basketball evolved at Highland Springs. So I think I was on his worst team, record-wise, his first team. In the head coach now, Reggie Tennyson, I think that might be the worst team, his senior year. But Coach went on to win the state and have great players, at Highland Springs. And they have a brand new arena, new gym and new school, and it'll be neat to go back.
Yeah, I think he just stopped coaching a few years ago. What was he like? So when I'm a big fan of the state tournament, and I'd see Lancaster, he would strut in so that the band would come in, the team would come in. He would strut in with all black on, and he'd make a show. He would talk to the refs. He'd put his arms on the refs' shoulders and talk to them like they were his sons. I mean, he had a charisma about him. Was he like that in the early days as well, or is that something that he developed over time?
Coach was the most fiery, coolest good dude I know. And like I said, he is a second father. And he coached Gerald Henderson. He's coached a lot of great players, but Coach was, he was fiery, man. He was, you had to play hard. And he taught me and taught everyone that we just pressed and played hard and run through the wall. And he's still coaching. He went back to Bluestone. I don't think he would ever stop coaching. So he's retired from Richmond. He's moved back to the country and still coaching there. It's in his blood. He plays golf all day and coaches in the afternoons. But great man of young men, teachers, and he was a great player. He played at Virginia State. He played football and basketball.
Wow!
At Virginia State. But he would be great to get on your. He's one of a kind. He's a diamond. He's a lot of knowledge, a lot of nuggets.
So we got to set that one up then, huh? So anyway, did you? What's it?
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Julie.
I was going to say, did you learn anything from him that X and O's that you would use as a coach yourself, or was it more just the kind of personality and the kind of inspiration he was?
The best thing I learned from him, I'll tell you a quick story. When I got to UVA as a freshman, I'd never seen, growing up in Richmond, naturally Richmond, inner city, you don't see a bunch of guards, 6'4", 6'5", 6'6". So when I got to UVA as a freshman, we had Jeff Lamp, who was 6'6", Lee Raker, 6'5", Jeff Jones, 6'4", Jeff Klein, a teammate had just passed, was 6'5", 6. And I was like, man, I've never seen so many big white guys, guards, that we had a drill that Coach Holland thought of one-on-one defense. You played for Coach Holland, you had to play defense. So we had this drill that you had to find a way to defend one-on-one. And I mean, I just would get my butt kicked every day as a freshman. I was probably 160 wet, and I never forget, I called Coach Lancaster because I thought coming out of high school, I was going to go to University of Richmond, who recruited me pretty hard, and VCU, who didn't recruit me as hard. But I would go to both games all the time. It was back when you go to the Red Elementary, and we had a recreation that you could just get free tickets for inner city kids. You could just go to those games. And I got to Virginia, and it was tough. It was really hard. And I never forget that I called my dad and said, hey, I don't know if I made the right decision here. And my dad said, hey, you're getting a free education. Figure it out. And he hung up the phone. And the next call was from my next father was Coach Lancaster. And I said, hey, Coach, I'm not too sure, man. I'm just getting, Othel Wilson, I can't guard. These guys are one-on-one. He said, work as hard as you can. He said, it'll work out. Just be prepared. Your time will come. And I always trust Coach. He's he shoots you straight. And I said, all right, I'll just work as hard as I can. Wait my time, and hopefully something good will happen. And luck has it, we had two guards. Darren Cross, who's 6'4", and Doug Newberg, who's 6'3". They redshirted those two guys. And they allowed, Othel was definitely going to play, Othel Wilson, and they kept me. So I caught a break, not being redshirted and having an opportunity to be, and I played on 4 talented teams, but I often say that 81 team was the most talented, and I thought had the best chance to win it all.
Yeah, you played on 4 teams that were incredible. One team that, and we'll get to this, that probably was less heralded than the others and almost won the whole thing. So no one had a better record than you in college. But to get back to Terry Holland, and did he recruit you hard? Or did he assume because of Bobby you would come to UVA as well, or did you consider seriously going to Richmond or VCU?
I really considered going to Richmond. I had gone to their camps and won many MVP for the summer camp. Dick Tarrant was the assistant. Lou Getz was a head coach. I had a really good relationship with Dick Tarrant. I used to go to their camps. I knew VCU a little, not as well. And I went to Virginia's camp after I was arising, after my junior year, and probably played pretty well. And they think the thing that they lacked, they had won the NIT the year before, but they didn't have a lot of speed, I guess I should say, and athleticism in the backcourt. The defensive pressure.
Yeah, a lot of Doug Newbergs in the backcourt.
And Doug was a tremendous player. All those guys are true, but they were just different. Everybody's different.
Yeah.
I signed early, and Othel made it all the way to the state and played terrific, and they signed Othel. And I'll never forget, Coach Holland said, one of you would play a lot and one of you won't. And the first time I saw Othel play, I was like, man, I know who will play a lot and who won't. And Othel was just terrific. And I still think to this day, one of the best point guards in UVA basketball.
Hey, Ricky, did you go to the high school state championship when they played Booker T. Washington? Were you there that night?
I did not. But I read the paper and I saw the highlights. Othel is, and I saw him up close and personal. So he's a tremendous player, tremendous guy.
Yeah, one of the best games I've ever seen. Booker T had a guy named William Walker, who ended up going to Norfolk State, was a legend there, and him and Othel just put on a show. It was great. So, so anyway, you go to UVA, and some folks redshirt, but you're going to get a chance to play right away. What was Charlottesville like in those days? No, I took my son there last week to visit, and it was, it's grown so much. It's, you got Banana Republic, you got all the food chains, you got everything now. What was UVA like to you in those days?
Well, I'll tell you, it was kind of neat because I had never missed a home game seeing my brother. My brother was there from 75 to 79. So I got a chance to go to see every home game. And so they won the ACC championship in 75 and some really great players there. So I can go back to the history with the Wally Walkers and the Mark Alvaronis and the Billy Langlows. So I can really, from the 75s, and funny story, even prior to that, probably in the early 70s, my brother and I would turn on the games from University of Virginia, and we didn't watch it because didn't see anyone like us. So it's really funny. And my brother probably got a scholarship. Well, he did get a scholarship. He was going to go to Old Dominion, and Terry Holland, somehow a scholarship became available at the last minute. Someone couldn't get in. My brother led the state in scoring 38 points, great grades.
Wow.
They ended up giving him a scholarship. So
Wow.
the rest is history. So I probably
Yeah.
wouldn't have ended up at UVA if somebody had gotten in and my brother hadn't gone to UVA, and he would have gone with Paul Webb at Old Dominion or Randolph-Macon, one of those two.
Yeah. I think my buddy Alder Purnell was down there, or maybe he would have graduated before Bobby started. He was the point guard on the national championship team for Old Dominion, but they may have not have been a conflict. But anyway, did having Bobby as your older brother, did that add to the pressure of playing for UVA, or did it give you credibility? Because I remember you as a fan favorite.
Well, I think it was a little bit of both, Julian. It was pressure that probably people thought it was that's the only reason I got a scholarship was because of my brother. But it gave a little credibility. It was so funny. The first time I was a freshman, I noticed, we're about the same build, the same height. And I think some people thought he had graduated, like James Worthy. He had to do a double take. Like, I thought the Stokes had graduated. So, yeah, he did a double take. But it was a little funny, but it was nice having him because while I was here as an undergrad, he was in med school. So he had an opportunity to come to every home game, naturally critique. And we stopped playing. When I was an undergrad, he was in med school. We played. I finally won, and we haven't played basketball since. So I felt like the Washington Generals.
It was a passing of the torch. You finally you took on the torch. So well, anyway, so it's the first year, and your team, Ralph Sampson's there. It's Ralph's, I believe, sophomore year. And you guys are top 5 all year, right? And you guys are, the pressure's on from the get-go, and you get minutes. I think you played in every single game. You come in for some, play some pressure defense and all that. So was it a big adjustment coming into ACC? Or was it a scary time?
It really was. The talent was just unreal. And I think the only difference in that time and this time, guys stayed. So, people stayed at least 3 or 4 years. Ralph stayed 4 years. So their talent just got better each and every year, as opposed to the one and done. So just the level of play was just outstanding. And that team had, I think, just about everything. You had tremendous scoring in Jeff Lamp, Lee Raker, Ralph. You had Craig Robinson, who's athletic, power forward, Jeff Jones. You had bruising guy like Terry Gates, Othel Wilson coming off the bench and added dimension. So my job was just easy. I just came in 5 minutes and press and run and try to cause havoc and come and sit down. So it was a fun time.
Was it an adjustment for Raker and Lamp when Ralph came? Because they got a lot of shots. And I guess Jeff Lamp, I think, was first team all ACC at least once or twice. Was it an adjustment when Ralph came in and Ralph became at least a focal point?
I don't think anybody is sorry when Ralph comes along. So,
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I think, one thing I will say playing with Ralph, you never thought you're going to ever lose a game walking in the arena with him. He was just that dominant on both ends of the court. There would be some practices, he would be so dominant, so amazing. It would just be less than an hour. It would be blow the horn. Hey, that's a wrap. That's good. That team, that it was some practices where just the offensive efficiency, the defensive efficiency, it didn't need to be in gym long, so.
What kind of person was Ralph to play with in terms of personally? Was he pretty easygoing? Was he tough on his teammates, or what would you say about Ralph as a teammate?
You know what? I often tell people he was a tremendous teammate. I often felt as though well, by and large, I think he's the greatest college basketball player to ever play. He's three-time college, other than I guess Bill Walton. They're the only three-time college player of the year. So basketball player, he's tremendous, outstanding. As a teammate, he was even better than on the court. So he had a van that he would pick us up and take us to Harrisonburg, and the guy would have cookies and brownies, and it's really nice when your best player is the hardest worker. And whether in the weight room or working on his game, we just made sure he got rest the night before the game, so we didn't have to worry. So as long as he got his rest, we're in good shape.
Yeah, it's very interesting because we see big guys shoot the ball outside all the time now. It's not a big deal. But, Ralph being 7'4", even in those days, big guys generally stayed in the paint. They had patented moves, a turnaround or a hook shot or whatever. Ralph, he could dribble the ball, he could go behind his back, he could shoot outside. He was really rare for those days.
What I often said, Ralph came before his time. You know what I mean? If he was 20 years later, he could be Dirk Nowitzki, or, he was a time in the early 80s or mid 80s where the coaches, big guys, because Ralph, is not built like some of the bigger guys, slight of build, that they just put him inside. And clearly Ralph had the skills to be a face stretch guy, that he could shoot from the free throw line. And I think Ralph thinks he can shoot from the 3-point line, and we all know he can handle the ball. So he was probably a little before his time, as the NBA coaches just thought you just plopped a big guy on the low box and you just fed him. That's the way you played.
How about you and Othel? Did you guys compete at all? I mean, you guys, especially early in your career, you had to compete a little bit for minutes because you both are coming off the bench and playing guard. What was your relationship like? I used to play pickup with Othel. He'd always give me some little tricks of the trade to use, things to do out there. But what was he like as a teammate for you?
Julian, he was really good, and O and I developed a really good bond, because what we would do is whenever we would go if we ever played other than on practice, we would play together. So whenever we would go somewhere, we would always be on the same team. So we really developed a pretty good knack for run and jump or double team. And it was just natural. It was a look, it was a feel. And I really think it turned over to our success on the basketball court, because it's just what we did when we went up to Slaughter or on the outside court, that we could really cause a lot of havoc to someone bringing the ball up court if they were unsteady, or we could put a lot of pressure in. One of the nice things is we could always get beat, because you had Ralph at 7'4", you had Craig at 6'9", and you had Terry Gates at 6'9". So if you beat us, there was nowhere for you to go. And we also were coming up from behind. So we'd like to think we caused a lot of havoc, and it was a lot of fun just to get out and have no responsibilities. You could just kind of do whatever you wanted to do.
Exactly. Well, so I played on the JV team at UVA, and I big fan of the team. So I knew Terry Holland a little bit. He had such a presence, aura about him. Kind of walked around like he was definitely a legend. What was it like for you to play for? When you started coaching, did a lot of things you did, did you learn from Terry Holland?
Well, I think one of the things that I think anyone would tell you about Terry Holland, if you didn't play defense, you didn't play. And so that was the key for playing for Terry Holland. And you had to play one-on-one. You had to stop your man. That was the onus. And if you couldn't do that, you couldn't play. And so once you learned that, the rest was easy. Everybody was talented. He was very good at defining roles, I would say. Everyone had a role. You kind of knew when you were going in, you knew what you were supposed to do. And you came back and sat down. So,
yeah. When Ralph's teams, when he was there, you guys, what was the furthest you got? You guys got to the Final Eight one year. You guys, I think it was the Final Eight against, it was NC State in 83, I believe, right? Or did you go earlier than that?
81, we made it to the Final Four.
Oh, that's right. 81, yeah.
And that was in Philadelphia, and we lost to North Carolina. Al Wood had a tremendous game. I think he had 35 or 37. He was one of those sweet spots, 6'7", that we had people 6'5", 6'6", and 6'9", but we didn't have anybody 6'5", and he 6'6" or 6'7". He had just a tremendous game. And then Indiana, Isaiah Thomas, Indiana beat North Carolina
Wow.
in Philadelphia in 81.
That's right.
82, Othel got a deep thigh bruise in the ACC tournament, and really hampered us as we went to. We lost to UAB at UAB, and that was a difficult loss. And then we lost in 83 to NC State out in Boise, Idaho, I think.
Yeah. What was that? So that NC State team, I mean, it's a legendary team now without banning Derrick, Whittenberg, Sidney Lowe, Thurl Bailey. What'd you think about that team? Did you know those guys pretty well? I mean, you guys played them.
Derrick Whittenberg called me this week, so I got to know Derrick pretty well. Yeah, it's one of those things. I don't think if you remember, is when the 3-point line was inside the arc. And so I don't want to say you can put an asterisk behind it, but naturally they had a lot of really good shooters. Derrick Whittenberg, Sidney Lowe probably didn't shoot as much, but they had Terry Gannon as well. And then, even probably Thurl Bailey as well. So they were able to stretch the defense a little bit, to shorten 3-point line. Because pre 3-point line, you had everyone packed the lane in the 81 and 82. I don't know if you remember, but that's when you just rotated the ball. That was before the shot clock, and so there was really a lot of slow games, very defensive-minded games, and the NCAA started experimenting with ways to increase, as they continue to look to increase college basketball, the scoring, the physicality, and to make the game a little more exciting, offensive-minded.
Yeah, I remember Derrick Whittenberg got hurt against you guys. It was early in the season. I think it was the first ACC game, and you were talking about that 3-point. It might have been the first game where the 3-point line was used, because that was in the ACC only, I believe. And I think he had 20, 25 points in the first half, and they went way up in the first half. He got hurt with a knee injury, and he was gone until almost the tournament. And then you guys came back and you won that game.
Yeah, he stepped on Othel's foot, and to this day, he said Othel did it on purpose. So he went up for a jumper, and Othel's foot was there. It was purely accidental. But anyway, I think he hurt his foot or his knee. You're absolutely right, Julie. And he went down. And they had some tremendous teams. I mean, I'll tell you what, a lot of, the Wake Forests had some really good teams back. You name it. Maryland had some really good teams. So the ACC was really, really a tremendous basketball conference.
I bet you had some great road trips in Tobacco Road, going up to Maryland and going down to the Raleigh Durham area.
Well, I often say traveling with Ralph Sampson, and I've never been with a rock band, but it was kind of like being with the rock band, the Beatles or something, because Ralph is such an enigma, 7'4". So there will always be a crowd when the bus arrived and when it left. To have a glimpse of Ralph Sampson, he was such a large figure, and that's back when we didn't have the amount of games on television that you have on television today. Matter of fact, being in Ohio, I hear people say, "Man, I remember the Ralph, Virginia days because of Ralph Sampson. The amount of people that used to watch Ralph play, and there was not the basketball in every channel that we have on television today."
Yeah. Well, let's get to your senior year. So as UVA, we call it fourth year. Were you guys at all excited to have more of a leadership role? And I mean, again, as you said before, whenever Ralph's on your team, you're a target. Whenever you go into a building, everyone here, UVA is here. Senior year, you guys are going to be, right in the middle of the standings in the ACC. It was going to be a whole different experience. And you made the most of it. So were you kind of excited for that? Or I think Odin Polynice probably took Ralph's place.
Well, you're afraid the year after, Ralph, because you lose your big armor. But we did have a lot of guys who had played a lot of basketball. Othel Wilson, Rick Carlisle was on the team as well, and the other senior was a guy named Ken Needland. So we had
Oh,
a
yeah.
pretty good nucleus of guys coming in. Jimmy Miller, Tim Mullen were juniors, so they had played significant minutes. And we had two freshmen join us. Tom Sheehy, that was heralded out of New York, and Olin Polynice, who was kind of raw coming from New York, but really progressed, as you mentioned, later on in his year, and really helped us not only we lost the first round of the ACC tournament, but he did help us in the run to the NCAA tournament.
Now, you didn't have to get a bid to the NCAA tournament after that first round loss. Were you guys worried you may not even get invited to the tournament?
You know what? We thought I think our record, don't quote me, I think we were just 500. And we thought we had to win the first round to be secure to go to the NCAA tournament. And we lost to Wake Forest, and they were very good. Danny Young, Delaney Rudd, Anthony Teach.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they had some.
Anthony Teach.
Yeah, Anthony Teach. So they had some really good players, and we didn't play particularly well. So not only did we not win the game, we didn't play particularly well. And I can remember for the first time, we didn't meet as a staff. I mean, every other year with Ralph, we got together to see where we were going to go. We were going to be first seed, and it was a lot of pomps and circumstances. But for this year, we didn't get together, and we were packing up to go to a spring break that we had never gone before. I mean, the previous 3 years, and we were at home packing, and we couldn't go until we got the final call from the managers or coaches to say we weren't going to the NCAA, but chance has it we got in, and we had practice.
Yeah. Well, the first game was against the team Iona, and the reason why I mentioned that particularly is because there was a guy that I knew really well from high school days named Arnie Russell, who played for Iona. He was a big guy. He was an Alexandria legend, a TC Williams legend, and I think you guys just squeaked by Iona the first game. I think it was a 2-point game.
Yeah, it was a 2-point game. Could have gone either way. We're just happy to be there. So, happy to go a fourth year. We won that game. And then we played Arkansas next. They had Alvin Robinson and Joe Klein. So they had both an inside and outside presence. But they were kind of offensive challenged as well, I would say. Like we were. We didn't, play close to the vest. It came down, and we got a deflection, and Rick Carlisle hit a shot and propelled us to Sweet 16 down in Atlanta. And we get to play for another day. And we were going to play Syracuse. And Syracuse had Pearl Washington and Ronnie Cycli. And I think Othel and the rest of everybody had just heard enough about Pearl Washington. It was the Pearl Washington, how they were going to just kill us and clobber us. And we had enough pride on our team that it might happen, but we're going to give a good fight, And we played one of our better games. And we played really well and got out and transitioned and won. And I don't know, but I want to say by 10 or we played well.
Yeah. What was Pearl like to play against?
You know what? Pearl was tremendous talent. I mean, in the open court, all the moves, New York City legend, but we're going to pack the lane. I mean, we're going to get back in transition, and we play help side defense. So if you could beat one man, you got 4 other guys there. So and then the other game was North Carolina and Michael Jordan versus Indiana, and we hadn't come close to playing close to North Carolina. They beat us pretty handily in the regular season, and
they were defending national champs.
Defending national champion, and they were going to play Indiana, and we're all thinking for sure North Carolina was going to win and really didn't want to have to play them again. But Indiana ended up winning. Steve Alford and UVA Blob and Robinson, they won, and we were shocked. And here we had a chance to play Indiana for a right to go to the Final Four. And naturally, Indiana, it's all about matchups, was a better matchup. They're playing North Carolina. So Olin did a nice job on UVA Blob. We did a pretty nice Othel, and the rest of the guards did a nice job on Steve Alford. It came down to the last shot. They missed it. I didn't box out, but I somehow came out with the rebound, and the rest is history. So
Wow.
got a chance to go to Seattle to play Houston.
Yeah, so that Houston team was maybe one of the most talented teams in the history of college basketball, with Elijah Wan, Michael Young, Benny Anders, and that was going to be an overtime game.
Yeah, and we had played them in the regular season, so we were not as intimidated, but knew how talented they were. And we had also played Houston. We had gone over to Tokyo in '82. So we were well aware of how talented, how athletic, and our only chance was to slow the game down, make it an ugly game. And we had a chance. And we had a chance in regulation. We had a turnover, shot turnover. And in overtime, we had a ball and it just didn't go in. And they ended up playing Georgetown for the championship, and Georgetown ended up winning. So
Yeah, that was great. Well, so your college career is over. Did you think about trying for the next level? Or did you decide right away you wanted to get into coaching?
Well, there's not a lot of market for a 5'9" defensive guard. So that was about as far as I could have gone. I was lucky to get the Francis Pomeroy award for the best player under 6 feet tall. I didn't know that was an award for. So that was really, really icing on the cake, and just a lot of great memories. So I worked for a bank in Northern Virginia for a couple of years. Went back, got a master's degree in counseling at VCU. Went back home and did that. And I tell people counseling is a great degree, especially if you have a daughter, which I do. And I was all set to be a high school counselor and high school coach. And I got a call from Jim Larinaga to come out to Bowling Green, Ohio to get into coaching. So coaching carried me a lot of great places, met a lot of great people, got out of coaching, went into development, and UVA let me do development out of my home in Philadelphia. Did that, stayed there, and took a job with the University of Pennsylvania in athletic development, did that for a year. And I saw the job that I currently have for the last 11 years is Associate Commissioner for Basketball for the Mid-American Conference. So I oversee basketball for the MAC and for both the men and the women. So I'm close to the game, but at the end of the day, Julie and I can go home and sleep well. So it's great to be in administration and help improve the game, and to see the coaches and the student athletes strive to do the things you used to do. And it's been really nice.
Are the coaches always trying to work you to get things in their favor? And is it one of those kind of jobs where you have these 8 guys, everybody wants something different? Or is it more of a long-term vision kind of thing, or both?
You know what? Coaches are coaches, and I love them. And I think to have this job, it's a benefit, because you have had the opportunity to sit in that seat. You know what the coaches are going through, and I think they appreciate a person that understands what it's like to be a coach, and to know when to talk to coaches. Naturally, you don't want to talk to a coach right after a tough loss, or to be able to let them cool off and have the opportunity to talk in 24 hours. So, I deal with scheduling, officiating, dealing with coaches, administrators, ADs, presidents, and trying just to improve the overall product of basketball in our conference.
Would you say you enjoyed this as much as coaching? I mean, what are the jobs? What's the job that you enjoyed the most, or is the most meaningful to you since you graduated? Is the job you're in now, was coaching for all the highs and lows that you go through? Was it the best?
Julie, I think everything is a learning experience, and you just grow. I enjoy development. Meeting people, seeing people give to causes and what they're passionate about. Naturally working, I was fortunate to work for two great institutions, raising money for UVA and raising money for Penn. So people say I was fishing in two very good ponds. So and the job that I have now, work for a great boss, great commissioner, John Steinbrecher, that I have a great rapport with. There are 32 conferences, so we're always trying to improve. And we're probably kind of somewhere in the middle. Some years a little better. So we like the upsets. And last year, Ohio was able to pull off the upset against Virginia. So we're always trying to work harder and be more efficient in trying to continue for excellence.
Who are you cheering for in that game, Ohio or UVA?
Always cheer for your paycheck. But I
Yeah,
always
you
root
know,
for UVA. Otherwise, I always root for UVA. So not only my brother was able to play there, I was able to play there, and I give Tony Bennett a lot of credit. He allowed my daughter to be a manager for UVA
awesome.
basketball team. She graduated in 2018, and I can't say enough about Tony Bennett and his staff, Coach Sanchez, Jason Williford, and the teammates. They were the players there. Was just a great experience for her. And as you well know, manager are a thankless job, but they did a great job.
Yeah. Well, Ricky, you have and I'll close with this. You've been generous with your time. You have a great celebrity. I mean, like, you played basketball at a time when UVA was starting to get more black players, and they were starting to get success. UVA had not been a good sports school, football or basketball, for many generations, and basketball team first and the football team elevated. But because you played with those great teams with Ralph Sampson, everyone knows you. Local people really know. I remember when I told people I was interviewing Ricky Stokes. You're interviewing Ricky Stokes, even much more than a normal Division I player from 40 years ago. Have you enjoyed that celebrity? Are you still surprised when people talk to you, say, "Hey, you're Ricky Stokes from UVA"?
Well, it's so funny you mentioned that, Julian, because I said, well, my brother and I was in elementary, as high school. Virginia was the last, I think this is right, the last ACC school to admit a black player. And my brother, I think, was in 75, the second or third black student athlete on the basketball team. And I just saw last year, he was the first black captain for the UVA basketball team. And so when I came, we were the first, I want to say the first wave of placing 5 black guys on the court, because you had Ralph, you had Craig, you had Othel Wilson, you could throw Ken Neal and I, so you could throw a Soul Patrol out there. So it's funny you mentioned that. So a lot of people of color watch, not because watch Ralph, but because of having people of color play from University of Virginia. So I was just at a memorial for Suzanne Haney, who was just a wonderful UVA ambassador who worked at the university. Her daughter had and you always get, hey, I used to watch you when I was in elementary. I'm an old guy now, so I used to watch you. I said, yeah, when you were in elementary school, So, playing with Ralph, you're always going to get that I remember, especially being in a small community that everyone roots for the home team. I just had a knee replacement here at UVA. And so, you hear, hey, were you still the Ricky Stokes who played with Ralph Sampson and those guys?
Yeah.
So anyway, if it can help me get into some venue or a free beverage, it's always great.
Yeah, and you mentioned this about, I guess Al Drummond was the first black player, I think, at UVA, played with Ricky. But the thing about, UVA was a very conservative place in some ways, because I guess girls just started going to school, right? Women just started going to school right around the time Bobby's first year. It's probably the second year they had women on campus, I believe, or maybe the third year. And then the ACC was beginning to get more black players. That North Carolina had a lot, Maryland had some, but it was the rosters were just beginning to get more colorful. But by the time you got there.
It's true. It was really nice. I think absolutely. I think North Carolina probably was the first. Charlie Scott, maybe. And I worked at Wake Forest, and Charlie Davis was the first black player, and that was probably in the late 60s and 70s. So Virginia was a little late getting to the party, but knock on wood, we got to where we need to be, and it was just a great experience. And I can't be thankful enough of the opportunity, and indebted to my brother for the job that he did, not only on the basketball court, but academically, being able to do well academically, undergrad, and also go into med school, and just a great teammates, no matter what color. It was a great time, great memories, and it's nice to go back now. And kudos to Coach Bennett to doing something we weren't able to do. So hopefully we were able to lay some of the groundwork to give some of the success. But it was nice to see. I happened to be at the game with my daughter when they won the national championship. So it was nice to see the banner, and it's nice to go back. It's nice to go back and see all the bells and whistles that they have, the arena and the locker room and the weight room. But it's nice to see them have that.
It's hard to change a culture of losing, and UVA had that culture. And it was you, and it was Ralph, it was Othel, it was Jeff Lamp, it was Lee Rager, all those guys. I don't want to leave anybody out. You guys turned it around, and it's true that you made what Tony Bennett did happen. You started it. And for me, you were an inspiration to me. I was a 5'5" point guard in high school. I grew to 5'9" or 10 by the time I met you. And I tried to play just like you. I tried to hassle people. I tried to annoy people when they would turn into me. I tried to steal the ball. I'd always try to make something happen on the court, because I wasn't a scorer. I was much more like you than Bobby, even though you could shoot a lot better than me. But you were inspiration to a lot of little guards at the time. This is before there was 3-point shots. So, guys didn't take the 3-pointers. We had to really make something happen out there. So I think you were an inspiration to a lot of people. I really appreciate you doing this. You reached out to me a few years ago, and it was good to hear from you. But I hope we can do a better job keeping in touch. I'd like to hear from you guys more often.
Well, I tell you what, it was just a great time. And I think people resonated because I like having fun. Playing for UVA basketball was fun, and I think my personality came whether I foul or not. I knew I was going to play. Like you said, I played every game. It might not have been a lot, but I played in every game. But I just enjoyed playing, and it was a lot of fun. And times were different, but one great thing is it was a group of guys who believed in the common goal and enjoyed each other. And it's really neat that we're still friends and still texting. Jimmy Miller and Dan Merrifield and Jeff Jones and Othel and Craig, so I don't want to leave anybody out, and Ralph.
No.
I mean, Ralph lives here, and Jimmy Miller lives here, so we all get together, and I think winning helps, but I think good people also. We had a lot of guys from Virginia. We had Ralph, Othel, Kenton. So we had a lot of guys from Virginia who were playing for Virginia meant something. So.
Yeah. Well, you have to say hi to Dan Merrifield for me and share this podcast with him. Dan was my JV coach. He was just a great guy. We used to go to that place right by where the Bodo's Bagels is now. We used to go there and get 2 large cheeseburgers together. And me and Coach Merrifield, I think we called him Coach Dan. We used to go get dinner after practice. That guy could really eat.
Dan is one of the all-time greats. So his dad just passed. So send his condolences to his dad. He was a high school principal. But Dan's another great teammate and great guy that we all keep in contact with. And Anthony Solomon. I don't want to leave anybody out because everyone is it's Kenny Johnson, and so
Kenny Johnson. Yeah, those guys were, when I was a robe at UVA, they were like the legends. Those are the guys we looked up. We all wanted to be like them. When they come to slaughter, we would try to outplay those guys, and they were just like, get out of my way, just let me do my thing out here. But always great competition.
Othel Wilson was my main man. There was nobody better than Othel Wilson. So
Yeah, yeah. Again, well, Ricky, thanks a lot for doing this, and hopefully let's keep in touch.
Julie, I feel honored. You have an all-star cast, so you've gone way down on your all-star cast.
Oh no,
It's been a pleasure,
me.
and I really appreciate it. Best of luck in all that you do, and hopefully our paths will cross again.
Yeah, and make sure you say hi to Karen and Bobby for me, okay?
I will do, and please, and if you ever get a chance, George Lancaster is one of the all-time legends, coaching legends. That if you ever have an opportunity to bring him on, you won't be disappointed.
Oh, I would love to. I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna get his email from you, and we're gonna work that one out.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, great. Thanks again, Ricky. All right, buddy. Have a good one.
All right, bye.